Hello to my Movie Deputy family, and welcome back to Movie Deputy Reviews, where today we are not talking about a review. If you're catching the image over here, you probably know we are talking about something much bigger. Now, what am I talking about? Well, we are getting into that very quickly. This was actually supposed to be yesterday's show, but I came in here to record this yesterday to find out that my webcam, my Blue Yeti microphone, and a lot of my other equipment was not working. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? I don't even know where I put it. Oh, I put it right up here. Well, it is because this little device right here quit working on me. So I had to go out and get another one. And by the time I realized it was a problem last night, everything was closed. So it wasn't exactly in the days of like when we had 24-hour stores that I could just go out and get another one. So I went out this morning and I got one that would cover everything I needed. Instead of just having 4 slots, the new one I have has 7. So I'm even better qualified to have to plug in extra stuff. So I'm not swapping stuff around when I'm doing different things. But we are celebrating 12 years. It was 12 years ago on the 7th that I registered Movie Deputy. And it was 12 years ago yesterday that Movie Deputy went live with only 25 reviews on April 14th of 2014. The day before my son's birthday. And that's what today is. So happy birthday, Pumpkin. Today is my son's 32nd birthday, or our son's 32nd birthday. So we went out and we celebrated lunch with him and did all that. And of course, we were celebrating Deputy too, because I can't believe I've been doing this for 12 years. In this 12 years, I've reviewed almost 2,400 movies. And it's just, wow. That's a lot. And I'm going to be sharing some things here with you. We're going to be going through my logos through time. So if you're listening to the podcast, I love it. I love that you're coming here to listen. But this is one of those shows you're going to want to come over here to our YouTube channel and check this out, because we're going to have some amazing visuals. And I'm sure we're going to share some laughs along the way. Especially, I went to the Wayback Machine's website and I looked up I went on the Wayback Machine and went back to the oldest archived version that they have of Movie Deputy, and that is back from May of 2014. And it was like, wow. I couldn't help but be surprised. It was just, wow. Yeah, we literally went live with only 25 reviews on the website, and boy, did we grow from there. We hit numbers that I didn't even think were possible. And when we switched over to the podcast format, I did lose a lot of people. And so a lot of people are going, okay, was it really worth it? And I'm like, yes, considering I'm slowly losing dexterity in my hands. I have a lot of health issues and things like that. So I used to type almost 70 words a minute. I now can barely get 20, 25, and I can only do it for short periods of time. But my voice works, my brain works. So here I am. And so actually, let's jump right in. And I want to share with you what Movie Deputy looked like the day, or about a month after we went live, because they didn't archive something, and I didn't even think to screenshot this way back in the day. But boy, does this change it up a bit. Yes, this really was what Movie Deputy looked like, as you can see right there at the title, where movies are interrogated for plot and content. And why does that matter? Well, that was important for a whole other reason, which I will be sharing with you here in a minute. And this is bringing you honest, straight talk reviews. And then it was just kind of in this list form that you see here. Just it said that movies that have been reviewed are in green. And though it's highlighting some of these, it does not let me click on this. This is just an archived thing from right here on Wayback Machine. If you want to look at this yourself, you can just go to here and then just look up moviedeputy.com. Our original logo is kind of up here, which I'll share that with you. And please be patient with us through this process. There are many more movies to come. And I had no idea how true that would be. And you can see over here, it's the measly little, we'd been live for about a month. And that little counter right there showed only 286 visitors to the to the website as of then. Yes. Like I said, that really was what Movie Deputy looked like in the beginning, and literally in the earliest of stages with that. And I want to share with you something that will probably make a few people laugh. Now, believe it or not, this was the very first logo that we started with. like to the point where this was something I had embroidered on my jackets, on my shirts. We had stickers, we had all sorts of stuff. And you know what? Even my car was wrapped. Wait till you see this. Yes, this is literally my car. I actually still drive this car, but unfortunately, she is no longer wrapped. That's a story actually for another program. But this one is definitely. Yeah, she's a car for the ages. Her name is Lexi. I know I'm weird. I name my cars, but she is the Deputy Mobile. And yes, that yellow star is 5 feet wide. From point to point, that star is 5 feet wide. And as you can see, it clearly says moviedeputy.com. On the back of the car, I also had the same logo with the website. And then, of course, on my bumper, it says interrogating movies for plot and content. Now, my license plate no longer is just a generic plate for Nebraska. My license plate actually is MVEDPTY, Movie Deputy. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's because even though she's not wrapped anymore, I still have that license plate. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But we went from this logo, and it's kind of a funny story. I had actually lost my copyright to this logo due to some legal issues, not because it looks like a deputy star or impersonating police, because that's something I've never done. I'm a big Back the Blue supporter, and I've never gotten in trouble. It's like, but it's funny watching people react. It's like people used to think it was an actual cop car, and I'm like, guys, come on. It says moviedeputy.com all over the car, and it's a 5 foot wide yellow cartoon deputy star. But like I said, I did lose the copyright to this, and so I love this logo. I literally created this in Microsoft Paint, just pixel by pixel, and did this whole thing. And I loved this logo through and through. I loved it. I would have been probably fine not really doing major changes to this for years, but that's not the way that ended up happening. And so when that happened, I had to redesign my logo. So what I did is I came up with this one. Now, I put film reels on the ends of the stars. I made this part that makes up the 6-point star. I made that into a film strip. I still tried to keep I didn't do the letters pixel by pixel, but I found a lettering style that was similar to what I had. I've always had the guilty and innocent, guilty being safe for 13 and above, innocent safe for 12 and below. And then I added the revolvers, but I never loved this logo. Like, I never completely loved it at all. I liked it, but it just, I don't know. It just wasn't like, oh, look what I do. It was more like, yeah, look what I do. And I didn't want to be lukewarm. I mean, Movie Deputy, it's like, it's hot. It's powerful. I love what I do. I love it through and through. So I came up with this. Now, something I'd always had with the reviews that were on the website is everything was in 300 words or less with no spoilers ever. And so I wanted to stick with that and stay true to that. But that was one thing with the website. It's like I said, it was always that. But I wanted something more. I still kept the film reels. I still kept the film strip as part of the star. I still kept the spaz. It looks like somebody's hitting it with lightning or something. But I did this swirl thing, a little wave thing with the letters, and then added the drop shadow. And I started to really love my logo again. And I was like, okay, this is basically what I'm going to stay with. But it got to a point where I'm losing mobility in my hands. So I decided to switch over to the podcast format. And so all I really did when I did that was just this. I took off the no spoilers, which, okay, I still do the no spoilers thing, but it looked weird with no spoilers there, but nothing on the bottom. And of course, with it being the podcast now, it's no longer 300 words or less. So I had to do something a little bit more, something a little extra. And so I hired a couple companies to do some mock-up things for me. And I just wasn't happy with what they were doing. And I spent an enormous amount of money. Gigantic, enormous, so it's just enormous. I know it's not a word, but it's my word. But with everything, I'm just like, I like that, I don't like that, I like that, I don't like that, I don't like that at all. And it's like, okay, so how can I tweak what I have? And so I came up with this. And I'm like, but the word podcast just almost seems out of place. It's a drop below kind of what's going on with the rest of that. It's almost like it doesn't fit. I loved the microphone though, and I loved kind of how that fit, but the word podcast just seemed out of place. And so I did this. I took podcast and put it in the microphone. And I really think that put it together, but I wasn't 100% sold. It's like, I really liked both of these, but like I said, the one almost looked out of place. This one, you can almost barely read it. So I ordered a bunch of stickers for both of these, like over 500 stickers. And I passed them out, and I would ask people when I passed them out, it's like, which one do you like better? And after months of passing out stickers, it was about a dead heat. And so I ended up making the tie-breaking vote myself and chose this one. But yeah, so that's kind of the fun of that. And yes, I really did wrap my car like that. I drove it everywhere. I even went out to LA with it. It was a lot of fun. And the looks, I mean, you'd imagine the looks you get. How can you even think that that would be a real cop car? I mean, it's a 5-foot wide cartoon yellow deputy star on the side of a car where it clearly says moviedeputy.com. So some people really don't pay attention, and it's kind of fun. It's sad, but it's funny. And so, yeah, that has been us kind of through the years. On the website, before we switched to the podcast format, we had over 72 million users worldwide. That's individual IP addresses and everything that visited the website worldwide. I even got the Antarctic Science Station. How cool is that? I got some emails from them back in the day asking me just kind of what I thought about movies, and that they were familiar with moviedeputy.com and they liked my reviews. And I really used to make it a point to stay neutral on the reviews, like politically. It's like even the ones that were really strong politically minded, unless it was aimed at kids, I was always harsh on those. But when I was switching to the podcast format, I'm like, you got to pick a side. And I've always been, okay, I can't say always. When I registered to vote at 18, I registered as a Democrat. And I changed that many years later, but I am now registered independent, and I review movies from the in my brain. I'm a constitutional conservative is what I'm trying to get out and say. And when I started Movie Deputy, I created the deputy rating scale. And you can find it at the end of a lot of my newer reviews that I've been doing. I've been kind of putting the little image at the end that kind of explains what the rating scale is. Now, you may be wondering, why does that matter? Well, here, you know what? I think I'm going to just go ahead and pull. A lot of times it's just easier to show somebody than trying to just explain it purely verbally. And this is the 10-point rating scale that I created for moviedeputy.com. I still say moviedeputy.com, even though I still have the .com. I haven't posted reviews there for quite a while because of the podcast format. But with Movie Deputy, I use a 10-point system. And I have had movies that I've gotten great scores that I personally didn't like, and movies that I personally loved that have gotten horrible scores, because I try to stay true to the deputy scale, regardless of my own feelings. And when it's really strong feelings that are so different from what the deputy scale is, I really try to let the listeners know. It's like, okay, this is what I would personally give it, but this is critically what I'm giving it. Because sometimes that can drastically differ. And it's sometimes really, 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 really hard to do that. Now, why? Well, as you can see, if you're over here on our YouTube channel, a 10 on Movie Deputy is perfect, flawless. Now, that's practically impossible. I would say it's purely impossible, but I don't believe many things in life are absolutely impossible. But that's one of those things. You'll never find a 10 on Movie Deputy. The highest score I've ever given any movie was only a 9.25, and that was the highest score I've ever given. Now, at that same time, I'll never give a 0 for the same reasons. There's no movie out there that would require a 0, though I have given some 1s. Now, a 1 on Movie Deputy would be horrible, unwatchable. Now, that's absolutely just critically, just like where it's like, it's just so off the wall, just so obscene, obsessive, just where it's just, ugh. But like I said, a 10 would be perfect and flawless. A 9 is nearly perfect with some minor issues. I think I've given 7 9s out of the almost 2,400 movies. That's not too many, but it takes a lot to get a score like that. Now, an 8 is an amazing story and it's memorable. I have given a decent amount of 8s. In my very first year of Movie Deputy back in 2014, my number one movie of the year was The Judge with Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall. And that one, I only got an 8.25 out of 10 on the Deputy scale, and that was in my number one position for that whole year. So that's kind of an interesting little tidbit. Now, a 7 on Movie Deputy is watchable, memorable, but the plot has some questionable content. Now, that could really go a wide range, and so I try to really pinpoint the whole plot with questionable content, not down to a specific type of content, but where it could be questionable across the board to certain audiences. So that's kind of what I try to lean to the best on that. Now, a 6 is watchable. It's a good story, but there's some flaws. Now, you've probably noticed I give a lot of mid-range scores of like 4s, 5s, 6s, and a few 7s. But there's a lot of movies that just fall in that mid-range category where they're not amazing, but they're not awful either. So there's a lot of movies that fall in that category. Now, a 5 is watchable with a decent story, but there's significant flaws where there's plot holes or there's continuity errors or there's just stuff that doesn't make sense. And that's really where it's like, it can still be a decent story, but just where it's just messed up in so many different ways, just obvious things that, okay, as a critic, I maybe notice a little bit more than the average viewer, but at the same time, there's things that you cannot help but notice in some movies, and you're just totally face palming it before you even get out of the theater. Now, a 4 on Movie Deputy is an unusual score. Now, why is that? Because a 4 on Movie Deputy is what I call watchable but forgettable. It's one of those movies that you're glad that you watched it once. You don't care if you ever watch it again. And it's one of those ones that if a buddy or your coworker or anybody in general just asks you, hey, what movie did you see the other night? What movie did you see last week? And you're sitting there and you're just like, what movie did I see? Well, what was that? Or it's like, it's just completely out of your brain where you can't even remember what it was. It's like we've all seen that type of movie before. And so that's the score that I have at watchable but forgettable. Now, a 3, it's like, okay, well, especially with movie prices these days, I try to really help people with the 3s because this is one, if you really want to see this movie, but you're really just, the story, there's something with it, or the plot, or the actors, or just, it's just meh as a movie as a whole. It's one of those ones, if you really must see it, wait for it to be on digital, DVD, Blu-ray, etc. Now, a 2 on Deputy is rare. A 2 is what I call painful and confusing. It's one of those ones where it's like you wish you could wash your brain and your eyeballs when it was done and over with to kind of cleanse it from even your mind or your memory all at the same time, because it's like one of those ones that'll stick in your head, but for all the wrong reasons. So this is one of those ones that just gives you the EBGBs or the creepy crawlies, the nightmares, just where it's, you don't ever want to watch it again. You describe it like where it's absolutely awful and it's just didn't make any sense, etc., etc., etc. Now, we're back to 1 again. Now, 1 is horrible and unwatchable. Now, I have given some 1s. It's rare, but I have given some 1s. But that's why I really try to stay true to the Movie Deputy scale when I am rating movies. And when my personal opinion differs slightly from what the Deputy rating scale is, I let people know that too. And especially if it's aimed at a specific target audience, target age range, etc., I really try to stay true to this and try to point that out to people. And as impossible as a 10 would be, it's just as impossible to earn a 0. Because there's no movie out there, even if it's horrible and unwatchable, it's going to still be out there for somebody. Even the worst movies out there appeal to somebody somewhere with that. But yeah, I've been promising for a while that I was going to take you guys through all my logos. And as you can see, yeah, this is like one of my embroidered logos here. And as you notice, it doesn't have the microphone or anything on it. I need to get some new embroidery stuff done. Which, by the way, shout out to logoup.com because that is where I get all of my embroidery done. They do an amazing job. And my stickers, shout out to stickermule.com. If you ever need any stickers or anything like that done, they do an amazing job. Now, I do want to shout out, I will be getting a new flag in the upcoming future, in the near future. One that doesn't just cut off as a movie. It does say Movie Deputy as a whole. It always cuts off just outside of that image. And as you see, that one matches this image. But I will be getting that image on a flag very soon with a black background. The black, it just pops. And as you can see, I like dark colors, so such as it is. But I hope you have enjoyed celebrating this anniversary with me. This has been really momentous, and it's just kind of a big thing. And this isn't like a huge milestone anniversary, but it is, but it isn't. But it's a lot of fun, and I love it. And I finally wanted to get around to sharing all of the logos with you guys, so you can kind of see what we've done through the years. And it's, like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's always an adventure. And I will be back later this evening with another movie review for you. And mummy themed, of course, as that's been our theme for the last couple weeks. And as always, I will be back again soon to talk with you more. So I hope you are having as much fun with this as I am. I'll be back soon, guys. Bye.